Hello today. Today I'm going to do the brakes on my '06 Impala, Chevy Impala. It's got a 3500 engine in it. And working on the rear because winter's approaching and I like to know the condition of my rear brakes. Front I've already done. I probably will make another video for that in the future just to go over it. But the rear brakes on these it's disc brakes all around. And your emergency brakes are drum brakes on the rear as well. So your primary use on here is disc brake with the emergency drum underneath, or within it. But that I'll hopefully be able to show you as I go through and take this apart. So right now I've got the front tire chalked. I've got a chunk of wood sitting underneath it. I would use the emergency brakes, but the emergency brakes on this are drum, and I want to make sure I can spin it in case there's problems trying to take it off. Well, that and chalking is it's another precaution to take. Also, I have a jack ready. This has a tow package, so for the demonstrations for this one, I'm just going to use the tow package. Otherwise, I'd also look for something strong enough to use to lift the vehicle, but I also need to consider where to put this jack stand to keep it safe while it's in the air. Also, I'm gonna loosen up this hubcap, plastic or whatever hubcap. Loosen those nuts, take that off. Then I have to loosen the actual lug nuts, which is much better to do when the vehicle's sitting on the ground. I have impact, but I do not have air or pneumatic impact tools. So I have a 4-way sitting somewhere around here. I will loosen those by hand, and then I will I do have an impact. This is Milwaukee's M12 fuel, so brushless impact. This will pretty much be my go-to wherever I can fit it in to quickly tighten down or loosen bolts after I've broken them free with either a ratchet or a breaker bar. So I just used my impact to loosen these plastic lug caps, which technically screw to the lug nuts. Now when you take this off, it's actually not too hard to figure out which orientation to put it, because it has a little divot made in the hubcap for where the valve stem on this tire goes. So I loosened these. Now I've got to loosen all 5 of these to get the rim ready to come off. All right, so got my 4-way tire iron here. Gonna get them loose. We'll break them free while the pressure is mainly on the pressure of the car is mainly on the tire. Thus, the ground, the weight of the car providing friction with the pressure with it sitting on the ground. So this can't turn because this whole thing would have to move, or whatever it's sitting on would have to be slippery. So if I was doing this in the snow with it on ice, this might actually get slippery enough to where it would just continue spinning on me. Break these free. And I'll use this to go technically the rest of the way. Okay, it'll do the trick. For now, I've got to get the rest of the way up in the air before I have issues with this on the ground. Hello. Tire is off, as you can see, sitting right behind me. Now you can see the jack is holding it there. Jack stand is actually supporting it just underneath the, I think it's a sway arm. No, it's something of a support arm as far as suspension goes. But it's on that far side of it where it actually hooks up to the frame, and because this is kind of sandy-ish, not terribly strong dirt. It recently rained. I have a chunk of wood underneath my jack stand to help stop the jack stand from just sinking into the ground. So this way, that is on top of the block of wood, and the whole block of wood would have to push into the ground as one whole flat surface, and that's much more harder to do. So here's my caliper. Okay, here's the caliper as a whole. Technically, right here is the caliper bracket. You got metal plates that technically seat the got metal plates that seat the brake pads. We have a bleeder valve back here. It's kind of covered by its little rubber grommet, which it gets from the factory. And this is the caliper itself, what actually does most of the work when you're trying to stop. And as you can see, this does spin, because I'm going to be taking this off, probably piece by piece, the caliper first, then the bracket, because the bracket is actually mounted back here. You got the pins that fasten the caliper to the bracket, but these pins also serve another purpose. There's actually a little rubber boot there. There's a little rubber boot right here. Get this to focus. There's the bleeder, rubber boot. Now loosen this, take it out, and the caliper can come off. Then you can easily take off the pads, which is one here and one here. Both sides for which is the rotor. Now to take off this caliper, the caliper bracket here, there's a mounting bolt here, and one right here, backside, bottom, our area. And I also, to take this off, have to find myself a Torx bit to remove this. It fastens it to the inner part of the hub for the actual bearing, so that it stays put. Hopefully it won't be that much of a fight to take off, because as you can see for the disc, this would be the setup for disc brake, and what's behind here will be the smaller setup for drum brakes, where these are disc pads. Inside of here, it's either going to be one piece with two shoes on it, what's called brake shoes in the disc drum, or the drum brake, or there's going to be a few pieces. We'll find out. Alright, this now comes off free. I got one of the pins out. That was the sliding pin that fastens in and holds your caliper to the bracket. As you can see, parts of it are threaded to fasten it, but this also is a sliding part that's inside of here, which allows the movement between the caliper and the bracket. This being stationary, fastens pretty much, the threads are right in here, right on the caliper itself. Because, see, fastens in there. This way, as time goes by, this pin keeps it sturdy to it, but allows it to move in and out. And this, I'm going to clean this up a little bit, re-grease it. Right here is the more dangerous part. It's rusted, threads are clean, the rest of the rod or pin is clean, but not the shoulder right here. And I'll show you how that can be a hazard in itself, because this part has never happened to me yet, but now it has now. The other one slowly moved and busted off. Now I think, if I can get this to stay put, there we go. I don't know. I might have to get a whole new caliper. Depends. I might be able to get the kit with the pins if I can get the remainder of it out of here. Because where it slides into right here is what tore off. And I can't even feel it because the protective boot is in the way. This piece right here. But with that out of the way, can get to the brake pads. Yay! Alright. I got the caliper, the actual caliper functioning piece up out of the way, hanging on my suspension, or the springs for the rear. They never advise you to allow this to hang from the rubber line itself. A little less over time as you're doing it. This flexible line allows the whole suspension in the vehicle, whenever you go over a bump or any sort of debris, it allows the whole thing to go up and down. If you had a rigid line, that would cause a lot of fatigue and eventually it would just break. That might be a metal line right there. Yeah, that is. So this top metal line right here actually does make a slight turn and goes to an adapting piece, which connects to this connects the rubber flex line. But you don't want to let it hang. You don't want to give the line any undue stress that you can avoid. So if you can, hang them up or set them out of the way nicely. Find a place that you can set it, that it won't just fall. Now, I did get the bolts out of here. Here's one of them. This one fastens into the backing in hub right there, and the other one would fit right there, thus allowing this to stay on the caliper bracket. There are some vehicles that have the caliper and the bracket separate, though obviously they do fasten together. There are some, I don't know about all the newer, nor all the older. I'm aware of the ones I've worked on. But I think I've seen at least a few that have pretty much all of this as one piece. Most of the time, for the bulk of my experience, I've dealt with them in two separate pieces. Though I'm pretty sure you can get these, if you order them brand new, you can get them all as one. Now, if I can get the rest of that pin out, all I need is some hardware, which I think my local auto parts store can actually, you can get pins. There's a lot of times you just call and ask, give them your vehicle make, year, model. Mine's an 06 Chevy Impala. Might ask for they might want your engine size. But then you can just tell them what you're looking for. Mine would be, I'm looking for the rear brakes, driver's side rear brakes, and I need the slider pins for the caliper. Most people are at the auto parts store are going to know exactly what you're talking about. If they're new to that and haven't been in the area for automotive repair, it might be new to them. But yeah, I pretty much need a new slider pin. And I'm gonna try and get this thing out. Though right now it may not even be worth trying to take out. If it's stuck in there, it's stuck in there. And that one I'd have to possibly heat up and put some penetrating oil on to see if I can free up the threads a bit more. Though technically those threads did get freed, because I was able to turn this, and that's what sheared. I think that's what sheared it, unless it's been that way for a while. It might have. Depending on how well that looks, if that's corroded over a bit, it's been broke for a while. So, alright, I'll take this off. I'll show you. This is the way I tend to do it. Just sneak in a little hole there and with what you could trust to be a strong and sturdy flathead, and pry down or pry up and down against the caliper edge, the rotor edge, and up against that gap in the caliper, and that will take it off. Now, I've dealt with this before, or I've been in the situation before where, and that's right, on a different vehicle, one of these mounting bolts actually fell out. I can't answer how or why. I checked it, I put it in, I torqued it down, it fell out. So because I was hearing a noise rubbing on my wheel well, and found out that whenever I was in reverse, no, it was forward. Reverse would be fine because it was the bottom one on the front that fell out. And the bottom on the front is normally located to the rear. So these are almost always located, it's odd now I think about it, but the caliper here, located closest to the door. The one on the front, the door would be just back here, so located closest to the door. Now if the bottom pin falls out on the front and it tries to grab, it's trying to grab this when it's moving forward, so at the same time it's going to try and turn the caliper out, pretty much like I'm doing right here. In that one, I could, as soon as if I back up, apply the brakes, it would grab and pull it back in. This one I can probably get away with driving. It's not the safest, obviously. It's no longer functioning 100% the way it's supposed to and meant to be. But if I drive it right now with that one pin missing, honestly, I think that broke a while ago, so I've been driving like this for a while. If so. But yeah, it's not going to come out because I have a ring of rust around here, and the pads are actually going to fight. As soon as it grabs, it's going to run into that obstruction, which won't allow it to actually come off free. But either way, it's when I back up and it clings that it might actually try and get pushed off or grab, and as it grabs, the rotation is going to throw it off because it's still fastened on the upside. So I do have new pads. I'm gonna put those on, and I get to have the fun of trying to take this off. See how difficult this is to get off. All right, I finally got this off. Actually, that's going back on. Got it off. As you can see, it's a little wet here. I always tend to use penetrating oil, or PB blaster. It's a penetrating oil. Spray that in there, hammer, whether sledge or regular just hammer at it. This took probably 2 to 5 minutes, 2 to 3 sprays. Spray it generously I just sprayed it on the top, let it flow down, hammering it, and hammer light to moderate, rotate, next shot. Every single time it's around here for me because it's comfortable, but I just rotate it. Can't do it now, it's kind of stuck where it's at. But yeah, just spin it a little bit, that way keep switching up this location from then to here, to here, to here, hammering it moderately. After I make a full round, the vibration, if it's all stuck together, which this wouldn't move one darn bit. But as this is all stuck together, just spray some, let it go around, and as you hammer at it, everything vibrates. When you hit the metal like that, metal on metal, everything vibrates, with the exception of some of it being taken up by this rubberized handle. But the vibration will help the penetrating oil seep in further into the cracks, and spraying more and more, keep hammering at it, is one way for things to get worked free. But as you can see, maybe you can't, I already just hammered it on. I'm getting this off. I might keep this on for now. I might not do anything, because here's the bracket. You can see a little shininess in there. That's not meant to be in there. That's the rest of that pin that busted. This other side has none in there. See, nice clear black. That has a little bit of shininess to it, so it's seized off into there. And besides drilling it and trying to get it easy out and taking it out slowly, I think I'm going to call and just ask to replace the bracket. That would be the simplest way to go about it. Also, I'm going to clean this up and at least try to spray the bleeder right here with penetrating oil, because this is the next problem I tend to get, where you try to bleed it. Like if you change, if for whatever reason the line busts to where you need to patch the line, there is automatically, as soon as it breaks and you lose brake pressure, you have air in your line. Now, when you have air in your line and you patch it, the best way to do it is to press the brakes and then loosen the bleeders. Whichever one you're working with currently, the line, find that bleeder, loosen it, and wait. You're going to be spitting out brake fluid. If you can contain a container, great. That's the better way to go about it. But if you can't, so be it. You want to loosen that bleeder up, and you want to get the air out of it. You're going to hear it bubbling, spurting fluid out with the gaps for the air pockets that are in there. But you want to try and get a nice clear, nothing but fluid. No air pockets, no sputtering. The less air you have in there, the more you're going to feel the firmness of your brakes as you're pushing on the pedal. If you have a decent amount of air in there, it's going to feel like a feather, and you're just going to go straight down to the ground. And you're going to have not a whole lot of clamping action, because technically you're compressing the air in the line or in the system. Air is compressible. We actually have what's called air compressors. That's how you run air tools and stuff, or even fill up your tires. You can overinflate, you can underinflate, but you're still compressing air into the tire. But for now, I do have new rotors, I have new pads, but with the problem of that little bugger breaking off in there, I think I'm gonna wait, call in, and see if the auto parts store has just the bracket on hand, obviously with slider pins. Now this here is a good reason to check your brakes, if not once a year, every other year, because this is the first time I've actually checked this in like 3 years. Kind of busy. But I'm going to keep this on. I'm going to pull it off, clean up a little bit on the inside. I'll show you a little bit there, but because of this ridge, it's kind of smooth. This is smooth, this is smooth. You can feel the bumps, but with it clamping down, it will help to hold the brake on there. Yes, I'm going to put this all back together and let it be that way, and use it for the day. Now, in a day or two, I'm going to take this apart again and replace the bracket that goes on, that the caliper attaches to, so that, okay, it's all functioning properly, and so I can go down the road in a safer manner. But I will get this disc drum brake off and show you the rest of the insides. Alright, that's with the drum brake off. Oh, and you can see that the spins right there, that little hole right there, is what this screw goes through. It was either this hole or this hole and attaches. That way it makes sure it stays put. Even though technically every single one of these studs goes through a corresponding hole. So it's not going to really go anywhere anyway. I guess their way to make sure it doesn't fall right off. But these are your shoes. This probably looks very close to the color of the metal. But this is your brake shoe. It actually sounds the same too. This is your brake material for your brake shoes. And it's on a spring. This whole long big piece of metal, round piece of metal, is your giant spring with an emergency actuator at the bottom. Can't really get to show you that right now. But this is one thing why you might want to deal with your brakes once in a while. Brake dust. All of that. But also to help make sure that you can get this off. Check it once a year. Just go through it. It's good practice. Helps you keep confident with your skills. Alright, here's one more thing I'll show you. You can see, I'm pretty sure you can see that. You got the nice shiny part right there versus all the other rust. You can go at it with a wire brush, clean that off so you have a smoother operation, because you don't get in here very often. But to get that shiny, you might need a lot and some speed. Now that's just a small wire brush wheel that actually has an attachment for a drill. You can put this in, slide it in there, tighten it, and then utilize that. As you can see, there's quite a bit of stuff coming off. So clean it up once in a while, can't hurt, keeps your stuff running smoothly and running better, and gives you a little bit more peace of mind. I will also mention, as you can see, expect to get dirty. Yes, they make gloves. But personally, I'll use gloves once in a while, especially when I expect to get really gooey and icky, like repacking my wheel bearings on my truck. Those I can take apart. They're meant to be. It's a lockout hub. But otherwise, I prefer being able to feel stuff. Yes, you're gonna get dirty. It happens. Get over it. Otherwise, this isn't for you. It's kind of like if you go river whitewater, if you go fishing, if you go fishing in a boat, if you go on any sort of boat, it's why technically the rule and regulation is everyone on the boat needs to wear a life preserver, because you're on a boat. Not everything's going to go according to plan 100% of the time. So the way I kind of say it's like, hey, if I go kayaking, expect to get wet. I have footwear so I don't have to feel rocks right up against my feet, but it's footwear that can get wet. Let it go and it'll dry off. Next day I got my boots or my shoes to use for other things, but I got shoes specifically to get wet and for kayaking, getting my footing and whatnot. With mechanic work, expect to get dirty and greasy. They make stuff, soaps, to wash off, so don't get too afraid of it. I will warn you that also, no matter what you do, sometimes you get injured. Have band-aids and some stuff around here and there. It's not the biggest deal. I would just keep wiping it off and keep operating. But it happens once in a while. So I'm going to continue cleaning. I'm going to continue cleaning that off, brush that down, and start putting everything back together. So I can actually use the car. Until next time. This is Alex. This is Alex with Joman, Jack of all, Master of none. If you found this information helpful, I encourage you to like it. If you are interested in potentially further information coming out as I do stuff here and there, feel free to subscribe. You'll automatically be notified when I post something else. For now, keep learning, stay safe, God bless, and enjoy.